I did my research at JNU, and I worked on the economy of Telangana for my, and I have worked on agriculture and the formation of region for my MPhil dissertation. Apart from that, as and whenever the changes in historical writing are occurring, I used to contribute to the themes that are proposed by the seminar hosts, like on urbanization and state formation, and on women, gender issues, also on craftsmen and craftsmanship, so on and so forth. Now, actually, my computer was giving trouble, and I could not open the computer to send my full CV. I'm very sorry for that. If you require, I can send later on when it gets all right. Now, to begin with, the history writing in modern India, we all know, had begun with British imperialist writings, where India is undermined and we are presented as though we are not a civilizational society. In opposition to that, by the nationalist historians have brought out how ancient our culture and civilization is, and what the the democratic aspects or whatever aspects that they were talking about, which have taken shape in Western societies, have already been present in Indian society. And that way we know all the nationalist historians from R.C. Mazumdar to Neelakanta Sastri have presented a beautiful narrative of our societal achievements and progress and the civilizational aspects of our society. In that kind of writing, there were certain gaps which were filled, like by people who have written on women, like the work of A.S. Altekar in nationalist writing is a path-breaking study which is really an encyclopedia of ancient women role and position in ancient society. That was a path-breaking contribution, as it was considered that writing only about political history, the wars and the extensions of empire were all male activity, men's activity. What were women doing when men were fighting on the fields and they were extending kingdoms and establishing empires? So this was a path-breaking work, and it has encompassed all areas of women activity in his work. Later on, we find every region having one writing on women. Like for Telugu people, we have the work of Suravaram Pratap Reddy on social history, where he has also dealt with women in through the ages in Telugu society. Likewise, we have several works by several people all around under nationalist kind of writing. Then we have Marxist writing, which has come up with the influence of Marx framework. And from then on, we find in historical writing mostly Western ideas influencing our writing. From one ideational position after another in Western world started influencing, suggesting the rapidity with which the nature of history writing has been changing. And this kind of Western orientation has influenced even writing on women. We find with feminism has influenced a number of fields like sociology, history, and anthropology, and so on. And under that influence, people started writing about from feminist angle, and that has been under criticism. And then there are works that have come up with the idea of gender identity. Here, once again, what happened was, though they call it a gender study, they study only women and only about women. Gender is not specific to women. Women, in relation to the other gender, is what to be written. Instead, people started writing about only women, and that women studies is also called as gender studies, which is a misnomenclature. Then we have, see, there are, every stage of ideational position of writing is being questioned and is evolving. We find there are so many lacunas in it, because when one approaches past with a framework, with an idea, a preconceived notion, then we are always bound to miss the reality. That has happened with the historical writing, whether it is about women or whether it is about any other aspect of Indian society. So we find even in the position of women, we missed many things when we were taking ideas from Western society, taking the frameworks from Western society and trying to attribute things to Indian society. So there is an urgent need for Indian historians to be free from these Western concepts and try to understand what was happening in India from Indic angle. This is what is my position, and because I have read so many writers like Uma Chakravarti and Kumkum, who say that the visibility of women in Indian sources is a invisibility is there. They are not visible and they are silent. This position of Kumkum Roy and Uma Chakravarti, I would like to, I would like to present that this is not true, and the reality, when we check the regional sources, it will be a different picture. Because when we study regional sources, because sources are mostly the textual sources and the inscriptional sources. So when we read texts that were written both by men and women, I have done a project for ICHR where I have dealt with the women writing in Telugu. I found several writers who were writing about different aspects, like they were they were questioning men. Like when we see Molla Ramayanamu, she questions the writings of men and she presents her own version. So, to consider that women were victims and women were silent, women were subordinate, is something which is not true, as they were having their own brains, and whichever position they were in, they were contributing to the society and to the surroundings, where whichever was the, I mean, whether it is in family or in village or in community or in at a larger sphere of spiritual life, they were all contributing. So we find even when you read Walking Naked, written by Vijaya Ramaswamy, you find women, when they wanted to occupy positions, they were taking high risks in in society, and they were stepping out of the given situations and contributing to the society. So we find women being bestowed equally with mental capabilities and physical capabilities, though they were not, there are only some instances which we might quote as being rulers, like in the case of Ahalya Bai, Lakshmi Bai, Rudram Devi, so on and so forth. They were rulers. That shows they were also well trained in warfare, which was considered to be the men's sphere. So it's very essential for us to approach, to write history from these sources. First, you have to get hold of sources, you have to be true to the sources, and then present history. Instead, all through the modern historical writing, they were taking the ideas from Western experience and trying to see whether they are present in our society or not. Like, let me present an example here. When you see R.S. Sharma's feudalism in India, he tried to coin a separate thing like Indian feudalism, because he was not finding the same characteristics of feudalism which appeared in Western society, particularly in England and France, not being present in India. Then why, instead of leaving that kind of a framework, he had tried to, you know, put Indian sources into that framework, which made him to say that there were decay of towns in India. Whereas in India, cities like Pataliputra and Vijayanagara, whatever maybe the context, even Delhi, they are all continuing cities and never decayed. So, and another, B.D. Chattopadhyay in his work on urbanization has proved that how there were shifts of urbanism. If in one time, one center becoming, urban center, another times you might find another city. So there may be shifts, but there is continuous urbanism in Indian society. Likewise, in the case of women also, women were not just subjected beings. They were not, they were not illiterate. See, there are, of course, cases when you see even among the men, all were not educated. Likewise, even among women, all were not educated. It doesn't mean that when we counterpose with the men, women were illiterates. No, not at all. If they belonged to the same class, they were having equal education. That is the reason why they could write texts like, in the case of Telugu, there are Mulla Ramayanam and other works which I have narrated. Several works I have narrated in my presentation in Indian History Congress. Right now, I could not lay my hands on my own works because I was very busy with the marriage function which I had to attend last week. And after retirement, I started being into the study of original sources in Sanskrit. So I have left all these papers somewhere else. Anyway, so we cannot say that women were living like goats. No, women used their brain, women contributed their bit to the progress of the society as a whole along with men. And when you talk about subjection of women, you talk in terms of family and the work between men and women. Even there, women contribution was much more than men. When you take up agriculture, you find women working in agriculture and breaking their backs. Likewise, they contributed to even, I have written a paper basing upon inscriptions purely, where I have suggested on Vishwakarma community. Vishwakarma are those architects and sculptors. And there are 5 crafts that come under Vishwakarma community. Those who are working on gold, working on iron, working on bronze, and then the carpenters, and then you have the sculptors. All these people had their women working along with them, and the weavers, artisans. They, even among the weavers, to this day, you find women working and giving beautiful ideas of printing, designing. They have contributed. So women, if they were totally to be subjected, they will not be contributing. So this is a wrong premise, a wrong presumption to think that women were at the back foot. No, wherever women were there, they were making their mark. That's what is my contention. And then when Kumkum Roy and Uma Chakravarti say that they were silent, that point is also I counter by saying they were very loud. They were not silent whenever they had an opportunity. Like in the case of, there is a work called Radhika Namu, where that lady, being a courtesan, she says, she challenges men in her work, saying that they don't understand the way in which a woman can work, where women can be sly and women can do things. So you find her very interesting because she being a courtesan, she tries to say how professional she was in her work. Because and she says, even a king can come to my feet. And there are very interesting expressions by this lady when she was writing the Radhika Swantanam. She shows how a woman takes care of her body, her beauty, and how when body beauty or whatever cosmetic items which they were using for her good appearance and her dressing and her jewelry, there are several instances where she says how a compound is prepared for a face pack or whatever purpose it might have been used, she narrates. That means the preparations of materials which are used for beautification are her own creations. It's not that a man prepared something and made her apply. No, they were evolving. They were making these items which enhance their beauty. So you find descriptions of this kind in her work, and you find when you read the works of uh, works like Molla Ramayanamu, and also the in Molla Ramayanamu, of course, she says there were attempts by men that her work might should not be given that much of importance, because she has not written in the kind of chandas which the other writers have written, not following the kind of grammar which the others were following. She says her work is something new and a new experiment, and it was received that way. Her contribution to the literature is a new way of writing the text. So everywhere they were contributing, they were making their mark, whichever may be their activity. Likewise, in the crafts work also, I have come across an inscription where the woman says that her husband and son have gone to Karnataka. Thus, she is taking up the charge of building a temple in Andhra. So she has, she was acting as master, because in crafts work you have masters and the workers. So the master being mostly, you come across many men being the masters in craft work, but women masters were also there when they excelled in their craft activity. So it all depended upon their performance, and mostly wherever they were given opportunity, it's not given, they were taking opportunity to show their caliber. And to say they were silent is something which we cannot accept. And I would like here to quote Edward Scythe, who says, mostly what happens is when if somebody is silent, we think they are not contributing. No, that's not right. Here I quote, in our wish to make ourselves heard, we tend very often to forget that the world is a crowded place, and that if everyone were to insist on the radical purity or priority of one's own voice, all we would have would be the awful din of unending strife and a bloody political mess. So this is true. Wherever it was required, women being very composed and balanced, they were presenting. It's not that everywhere we need to talk. So the silence at some places should be understood to be, it is casting their wisdom rather than their ignorance. With that introduction, I would like to go into some aspects of this gender studies. In the feminist studies, historical inquiry down the ages as one of making women invisible. They considered, feminists have considered women are invisible in historical writing. If they are invisible, it's not the fault of them about whom we are writing. It is the fault of historians who have not written about them, but they were always making their presence felt in the past through the mechanisms which we have not understood. So when we did not understand, we cannot say that they are invisible, they are not contributing, or any kind of that negative comment would be wrong. And so we find when we start, the techniques and the methods which we have adopted have not enabled us to unearth the presence of women in Indian history. So we needed to write about Indian women, and that part has been very well articulated by A.S. Altekar when he has written of position of Indian women, Hindu women. Then the another flaw with the feminist writings is that they equated gender with women. So gender means it should be masculine as well as feminine gender. So you have to deal with women in relation and in along with men, how they were contributing and what was the participation and how both the genders were acting towards each other. Then only it will be a gender study. Otherwise, people mostly what they do is, when I conducted a seminar on women agency and women in leisure, work and worship, they have people have presented enormous number of papers which I had to select, from which I had to select. Mostly they were preparing papers saying that this woman has done this much of work. I mean, whichever category of women they were taking, they were writing about them, and they were writing about women jewelry, women dressing, and that and this. But that is not what gender studies are. And woman is not just what she appears, but what she thinks is more important, and that needs to be brought out when we talk about women agency in history, because women have the urge to decorate themselves. That is also a celebration of life, to present themselves, but what they think is very, very important, and we need to understand that thinking. And mostly what the criticism of feminists and the related writers like Kumkum Roy and Uma Chakravarti, Aparna Basu and so on and so forth is that whatever ideas they are presenting, they are being given by the male thinking. That is also wrong. You can never present others' ideas as your own unless you imbibe either or accept totally. So when you accept, that means you are in agreement. When you are in agreement, you might present the same ideas. But when you are in disagreement, you present your opinion or your ideas in your own way. This is a human nature, and which we cannot say that women were lacking. No, this is not right. So when women have written, when I have read their works for my project, I found them profound in their expression. They were not silent, they were not frightened or scared of expressing any of their ideas. So we find in that context Radhika Namu, and prior to that, let me give an example. I mean, a work of earlier times, that is Gatha Saptasati, where I have noticed so many women. It is full of women. That work is full of women, and you find women talking about illicit relationships which they had with other uh, persons other than husband, and they are fearless. They were presenting that. They can be sarcastic towards men. When they were sarcastic, that shows they had their own opinions. So this way, women were not silent. Women were not. They were not feeling victim, because feminism places women in victim position, which is unacceptable to Indian society. Because, see, there are, of course, problems in relationships that are similar. Problems even for men. See, when women are facing certain problems, it doesn't mean that men were not facing any kind of problem. So this we find both the ways. And when even when in the context of class societies also, when Marxists have written about classes, one against the other, you find unless the capitalists were to be there, the society would not have been moved from feudalism to capitalism. So the agency there is the capitalists. So likewise, in the when reform movement had occurred in Indian society, the earliest reformers were considered were men who have helped women to come into different fields of activity, that is either political activity or intellectual activity, whatever it was. But that doesn't mean that these people were not ripe enough to receive the call. They were ripe enough to receive the call. So you find so many women after, even prior to the 19th century reformers, you find several other women reformers being present in Indian society. I might see when we talk about Phule, we talk about his wife too. She has also dynamic. She was also a very dynamic woman. Has contributed equally with with whatever contribution her husband was doing. So it doesn't mean that it is because of only men. Women were participating. They were having ideas. They were having all the reception to respond and society. They were acting in women as part of the society, as human beings who are part of the society. They were participating and contributing. This kind of the binary opposition between men and women, focused upon by the feminists, and the resulting equation of gender history with women history, cannot be taken to be right in the context of India. And this is one presumption which we cannot, blindly take, because these are the ideas that have come from Western experience. And then we have premised on the recognition of absence of women's perceptions in codified knowledge and inability of the existing techniques of knowledge generation to explain women's lives. This is another, criticism which the feminists level against the Indian writings. This I have already I have shown already that how it is wrong to consider that women were not making their ideas or their knowledge, they were not presenting their knowledge, is wrong, because we lack method, we lack the techniques to unearth their way of presentations. Thus, to see that they are invisible, they are not, we cannot explain about women's lives, because all the documentation that we are getting, both in texts and inscriptions, is done by men. This is wrong, because most of the inscriptions which Kirit Kesha has presented in his work on problem of identity. Just a minute, I'll show the book. In this work, Problem of Identity, Women in Early Indian Inscriptions, he has shown beautifully how women, without even presenting their familial relationships, that because most of the inscriptions which he has narrated here belong to the Satavahana period. There, you all might be knowing that men rulers were identifying. I mean, they were giving their identity in relation to their mothers, like Gautami Putra Satakarni. You are all very well aware. So he suggests in inscriptions. I have gone through the whole book. Beautiful narration one would find about how women were expressing themselves in inscriptions because they were donating lands. See, when one can donate anything, when one possesses it, whatever I have, I can donate. I cannot donate a thing which is possessed by any other. So when they were making so many land grants and with power, that shows that they had property right, they had the freedom to choose to whomever they wanted to give. And in inscriptions, what happens is we have processes where they give the genealogy of the women with which runs through their mothers. This is a beautiful example to suggest how women, whatever way women wanted to present themselves, they could do that. They were doing it because in certain cases they present themselves as wife of so and so. If the man happens to be noted, a renowned person, then they might identify themselves. I mean, they present their identity in relation to him. But mostly they were presenting their identity with their ancestry through their mother, grandmother, and then their daughters and so on and so forth. Such examples he has given. He has presented many inscriptions of this sort. So the kind of writings that in the name of gender studies, feminist studies, and women studies are being presented as exclusive women studies. This cannot be history. Women should not be treated as only a biological person, but women are social and in relation to cultural and societal relation, women need to be presented in history particularly. So, and there is another presumption in these works, that is creation of codified knowledge and the institutional structures for knowledge generation have been historically controlled by men. from certain classes and nationalities, and partly from the political aim of perpetuating women's subordination. This is also contested in his work beautifully, and I have also contributed through my papers on the Telugu women writings, and also about the work on, the work which I have quoted already, the Radhika Namu. So in both the cases, we find women making themselves visible, audible, and impressive. And another assumption is that mostly, when people criticize nationalist presentations, they presume societies were just patriarchal. The lesson is women's history cannot be a separate history standing by itself, but has to be conjoined with histories of societies in all their ramifications by retrieving, reinterpreting, repositioning, and but integrated finally into mainstream history. So we need to have a comprehensive outlook when we talk about or write about women, rather than isolating women and trying to present them. Because women are also social beings. They are not just biological beings. And the kind of writings that have, that already have come, they all have presented a sense of victim among women. And I think psychologically also, this is wrong. This is wrong to give such an idea about women being always being subjected and being victim, that and this. This makes even the people in the present society feel depressed. So this is this is another concern which makes me feel that that kind of a writing with an imported ideas is damaging to our society. So we need to take up the real history of Indian women, how they have contributed. Uma Chakravarti states at one point that A. Saltaker had put Adam Smith to rest, and I want to put A. Saltaker to rest. That should not be the temperament. That should not, we just do not write just to make others shut up. That's not fair. We have to know what is right and what is wrong, and we have to be true to our sources. Unless we are true to our sources, we will not be writing a real history. We will be only writing a hypothetical history, which is not going to be of help to society. Because ultimately, why we write history? In order to enhance and better the present day society. But for that, we need truthful presentation, a true presentation of what happened in our past and how things were taking shape and how it evolved in our society. This becomes very, very essential for us to understand. And it is with this kind of a objective, because people have questioned objectivity in history, periodization in history, and so many other things. Objectivity in history, if it is not there, and if it is only a subjective way of presentation, then it becomes irrelevant to the whole society. Because subjective writings are only for particular groups, but we cannot have such kind of a divisive history. We need to have a comprehensive history where whole society should be benefited, whole society can make progress. It doesn't mean that there were no problems in Indian society. There are problems, and the way in which we try to address them matters, whether it is towards solution or towards perpetuation of those problems. So with this, I will stop. I don't know how much time I'm supposed to talk.
You can continue, ma'am, if you want to. No problem. For some 15 more minutes, if you wish to. Otherwise, we can stop. If you have anything else to share with us, we'll be happy.
Yes. So, talking about this exclusion of women, just, taking women only as biological beings, how it is damaging, I would just like to mention. This part I have not so far mentioned. Our understanding cannot be enriched by following on one of the exclusion of the other. See, when we are critical about the history being male-oriented, then how can we be fully female-oriented? So this is also wrong. See, if we say men taking liquor and smoking is wrong, it doesn't mean that we also take liquor and cigarettes. This is not the way we want to do. See, because you are doing that, we also do that. This is the way in which feminists have written the histories. So this, even they behaved also, because I happen to be I have attended several seminars, international seminars, where I have seen women smoking, women also participating in drinking parties, just to show that we are equal. See, this cannot be equality. When we criticize them for being womanizers, for being drunkards, for being chain smokers, we should not do that. Instead, we should influence them not to be so by being more, stronger than them. We should present ourselves more to be stronger, because it is the weak who fall prey to all those bad habits. So when we say certain bad habits are with them, we are not supposed to practice them. So that way, if we consider male-oriented histories are written, we should not do female-oriented historical writing. It is only an opposition, but it is not a total societal cultural history. This cannot be a total history. So we need to move towards a total history, a realistic history, and a true history, rather than just, opposing and doing the same. The way in which we criticize others, if we do the same thing, then we are not contributing to the societal progress. That's my conclusion. And then, so women, there are certain other generalizations that women were not given education, women were not free to choose their companions, so on and so forth. These criticisms are also, wrong, because when we find women writers, when we find women philosophers, and also women who were accomplished in fine arts, how can we say that women were not educated? See, no doubt, certain section of the women were not educated. Likewise, certain section of men were also not educated. See, it is a heterogeneous society. It is not a homogeneous society. When we talk about heterogeneous society, all categories of people will be there. Even to this day, even in the modern society, you don't have all women educated, you don't have all men educated. So that is there all through the times. Those who are educated were not, it's not because women, it is not because they were women, they were not educated. This is not a right understanding of our past, because I have written papers on women writers, women intellectuals, and women who were accomplished in fine arts, and women who were fearlessly presenting themselves. So, to consider that women were illiterate, in a generalized manner, we should not talk about anything. You can say in a specific manner that maybe the lower class women had no access to the higher education or whatever it is. But there, once again, their professions were different. They were, what work they were doing was different from the work of the intellectuals. Even to this day, in modern society also, all are not professors, all are not teachers. If all are to be teachers and professors, what happens to the other functions in the society? So this kind of a balance would always be there in any given society, everywhere, in any geographical context. It need not be only in India. Even if you take Europe or any other country, these categories are there. And we find even in America, the first world, there are poor people who are really suffering on the platforms and on roads. When I went to New York, I have seen so many poor women, old, they are in cold, chill, they are suffering there. This is always there. This is always there. It doesn't mean that all were like that. So we need to uh, try to get the reality out of our sources rather than approaching them with assumptions derived out of Western experience and Western ideas. We should not approach our history. Our history needs our approach. Because only then when we can relate to it. Otherwise, when I read any other text that is written by those who have the influence of Western writers, most of the work will be theoretical. Because they try to talk about the ideology. More than 70% of the work will be ideology, and it becomes difficult for the reader to get connected to that kind of a writing, because we tend to be self alienated. So this is not a right way. We need to see history writing should be part of one's own understanding. Those who read it would have to feel that connection with that past or with whatever the writer is presenting. So that connection will miss if we try to present more ideologies, more of philosophy rather than reality. So we need to present reality and we need to be true to our sources. This is what is my conclusion. I think I stopped here.
Thank you so much, madam. That was a very intellectual talk, ma'am. Very, very nice. And we were able to understand how we need to understand the status of women or the position of women in a society, and how we need to have a comprehensive look on the achievements of women and how we need to relate to them from our background. So that was very nice, ma'am. Thank you so much. We are very thankful that you could make time to address our audience today, our participants of the webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am. Does anybody have any doubts you may clarify with madam?
Yes.
You may clarify. Okay, I think we are not going to have any discussion on the topic, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us this session this afternoon. I'll be in touch with you, ma'am. So we have another presentation. Please, if you have time, please continue, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'll be there.
Right. Thank you so much. Now we have a presentation by our student Sushmita from 3rd BA TTM. Is Sushmita there?
Yes,
Sushmita?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Good afternoon.
Sushmita.
Yes.
I now request you to start your presentation. We'd like to see you first.
Okay, ma'am. I'll just switch on the camera.
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, students. I'm Sushmita from 3rd BA TTM. And ma'am, I would like to present my screen and start my presentation.
Yes, please do that.
Yes. I hope all of you can see my screen right now.
Not yet, Sushmita.
I can see that. Impact of pandemic situation.
Yes.
Yes, Sushmita.
Ma'am, I would like to keep the tab closed as the volume is little low. Can you just switch off the camera? Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sushmita, and today I'm presenting a topic on impact of pandemic situation on history. So firstly, I would like to thank Lakshmi ma'am. Her presentation on the paper of women is so good. Thank you, ma'am, for presenting it. So first, coming to pandemic, it is a pandemic. What is pandemic? It is defined as an epidemic occurring worldwide or over the wide area, crossing international boundaries. So, telling you, an epidemic is which occurs in a single community or in a single region, where pandemic occurs to worldwide, which doesn't have any boundaries. So currently we are facing with a pandemic called as COVID-19. So relatively, I've taken this topic. This pandemic have actually, the epidemic of COVID-19 has started in China, Wuhan, and it is after that it crossed its boundaries and moved to other countries, and now it's all over the world, which is known as the pandemic. So today I'm going to tell you about the places, about the history where the pandemics had affected the people and how it wiped out some of the civilizations too, and it led to the downfall of some of the empires. And the people have, as the pandemic have started occurring, the epidemics have started occurring, where people in the ancient times don't have a trade relations with the other countries or other places where people used to live. So when a pandemic or plagues used to occur, they used to stay in single places. Thus, there is no contact. But as globalization has started, people have started mingling with each other, and trade and commerce have started, and they started exchanging goods, products, knowledge, etc. So that is how the pandemic or the diseases also have started to spread to different regions of the world. So these are some of the most important pandemics that occurred through the history. The Justinian plague in the second century, that is 541 to 542, which occurred in Rome, and this is an epidemic which spread to the European countries. And the Black Death, six cholera pandemic, Spanish flu, Asian flu, Hong Kong flu, swine flu, and COVID-19. All of the flus are the parents of the H1N1 bacteria. So this is the Rome Empire, which we can see right now. This is the map of Rome Empire. This is Rome, and many of the other regions are the green and the pink regions are the part of the Rome. This. So, the Antonine plague. It is also called as Galen's plague. It occurred in 1655 to 180 AD, which we can say that as per the historians, this said to be the most ancient plague which occurred, and historians have noted these things in the book. So this said to have records rather than. So what is the cause of this plague? Scholars, there is no particular record as to what the plague has come from, but people say as per the noted, the things that they have noted on according to their health conditions, like having small spots on their body or fevers or vomiting, they have concluded it as smallpox or measles. As we can see in recent times, smallpox or measles doesn't have a cure in the ancient period. So people have suffered because of it a lot. And what are the effects of it on the people and society during that time? Rome is said to be a very, people used to visit Rome even in the second century due to its cultural and its sports activities which are held over there. Many aristocrats also used to visit this Rome from many other parts of the world too. And thus, this outbreak had affected only Rome, but many classes of the society have they have started to they couldn't have enough supply of the people have started falling down. That is, they are being affected by this plague. Thus, many of the farmers couldn't produce the crops, and the people who are in the that is the artisans or else the people who make sculptures or cloth, etc., used to export those from Rome to other countries. They couldn't do it. Thus, the Roman economy also fell due to this Antonine plague, and many soldiers are the first one to contact this plague. So more men died regardless of their post. Means even if they are generals in the military, they are dying due to this plague. So this led to the fall of Roman Empire in 500 CE. So this is the Roman Empire which we can see. Next, plague of Justinian. After the plague of Antonine, Justinian plague occurred in the later 6th century in the same region, Rome. People have actually recovered from the plague, but not so much. In between of Justinian, that is from 2nd century to 6th century Rome, three different major plagues have occurred in the country, which led to the empty of treasury in their coffins. So we can say that as the treasury was empty, because the king wanted to provide, the funeral money to the people who are dying. So that is half the coffins. The money also have the treasury also are left to the empty. Sorry, the treasury is also empty. So, Justinian plague. What is the cause of this plague? As you can see, this is the map where these are the trade relations during the period of time where Rome is flourishing a lot. So, this is China and India, and these are the land trade. These are the land routes, and these are the water routes. So, The main area for the trade relations the main area that the goods are going to stop in the ancient period is Constantinople. So after the in Constantinople, but in the later period of time, the Arabs have the Ottoman Turks. They have conquered the Constantinople, and we need to make a way. They need to make a way from around Africa, and then came to India later. That is another point. But how this is how this plague have transferred is from China to the European countries, which is a pandemic to say. Even though China is affected, it is there is not much death that happened over there, but due to the ships that they have exported from over there to the European region, then the plague have started. That is Justinian plague. Justinian is actually the king who is actually ruling Rome at that period of time, so that is how they got the name. This bacteria is spread to rats, fleas, and during the ships are sent from India and China, where there are mice hidden in these rice grains. Constantinople is the capital trade and relations of Rome, and the king Justinian wanted to bring the empire back to the glory. But unfortunately, this plague killed more than 40% of the population of Constantinople and 25%, resulting to 25%. So Constantinople is the main capital. Thus, 40% of the deaths have happened there. And compare and considering the deaths which happened in the whole Roman Empire, we can tell that 25% of the world population is dead, as the population at that time is currently low. So, what does this plague mean? Within 24 hours of infecting, many people died due to this plague, and only some of the lucky ones survived this. And people are increased. The taxes upon the people have increased, and only little people are left to actually sow the crops and then harvest them, and they couldn't do all these. And people who are alive are being paid a lot. Thus, the economy is falling down, but the people are trying to survive somehow during this old time. Next, blood death. Considering the past two plagues which we have heard, Black Death is the most dangerous one which have happened in the European countries, and it almost wiped out the people who are living over there. And it happened from year 1346 to 1353, where it is actually the period where the French and British are fighting for a 100-year war. 100 years war, which actually happened for 116 years, from 1337 to 1453. So in between, the Black Death, the plague, have started in 1346, as you can see. So this plague have ravaged all over the Europe, Africa, and Asia, which estimated the death toll between 75 to 200 million people. As you can see, the population of the Europe at that time might be 400 million people, and out of them, 200 have died, which led to the 50% decline of 50% of the population. So that is really a huge number of people, considering the deaths which have happened at the time. So how this plague spread is the main concern over here. So the shipments which the exports which are happening from China and India, they fled. The exports that are happening from China and India are traveling to the European markets, where there is a high demand for the spices, cloth, and the gold, etc. was there. Thus, the ships are being exported. Considering this, there are some mice and fleas. Fleas are small insects that in the hair of animals or rodents. They live over there. So these are the fleas. So considering this, the fleas and mice are stored in the ships for a longer period of time, and those mice are affected, thus affecting the people all over the ship. the people are dead in the ships, and only if we consider among 100 people who are traveling in the ship, only 5 to 10 people have survived. See, that is how the plague have taken over the ship. That is how we can see. So the mice and rot and the fleas are the main things which are the carriers of this plague. So what happened during the time? How did people cope up at that time? People in the European countries, people started fleeing to other countries, other countryside. Like, if they are staying in villages, if they are staying in the cities or bigger cities, they are fleeing to the small countryside villages where this virus also couldn't stop them from, where the virus is also is taking a toll on the people and cattle in that area. So, briefing this, we can say that Black Death is where um, European people have died in huge numbers, even though in the later years there is a recovery in the national treasure, and people have, they have survived this. And how did the Black Death? What are the symptoms? This is the main thing that is concerning them. People have started the lymph nodes, which are ending at um, you know in underarms, or else in the places where in the higher thighs region, they're getting a small egg shape. The size of egg. That is the size of node that they are that their nodes are the pus is stored over there, and they are in the shape of in the size of egg or an apple. That is how the nodes used to get. And the people who ever have touched the skin or even the clothes of the people who are affected are getting the virus itself. That is how the virus have spread over the region. And considering this, people have started thinking that this is some kind of they are in superstitions. They believe in superstitions. They believe in science and also in superstition. But coming to this, they are doing some kind of rituals or some kind of things where people where there are some cults also have arrived during this period. But later, this the cattle are affected and people have started dying, and that is how the Black Death have spread over the country. So to depict how Black Death is, this is the picture. As you can see, the skeletons over here, and the people are dead, and the skeletons. They think that some kind of magical. There is a curse on them where these people have started passing this plague to all of the people in the country. So this is the Black Death, which is the most significant one throughout the history. And the cholera pandemics. This cholera pandemics have occurred in 1817, which have started from India. So this cholera is happened due to the lack of treatment of feces and lack of treatment in drinking water in the later times. See, there are a lot of number of people who are in living in poverty. Does they don't have proper washrooms or something like that. So and there is open defecation, dust, which when the floods or rain starts, the feces mix up into the rivers, which result into if a person is affected by this, the person's diseases are mixed into the water, that is the rivers or source of drinking water, where people maybe didn't boil the water or something like that, thus affecting the people all over India. And this cholera have taken a toll on all over the world, in America and Russia especially, and even in other parts of the country. So this cholera pandemics, there are total 6 cholera pandemics which happened, and it is from 1860 to 1923. The first 6 cholera pandemics have occurred consecutively, continuously over the time. So deaths in India between 1817 and 1860. In the first 3 pandemics of the 19th century are estimated to have killed 15 million people. So the first three pandemics. The third pandemic, the first, second are have happened and crossed over the Indian regions, but the third pandemic took a toll on the places of Russia, where people in Russia are affected a lot, and there are a lot of deaths which are happening in that region and during the third cholera pandemic. And another 23 million people died in 1865 and 1917 during the next three pandemics. And the sixth cholera pandemic is also the most important one, we can say, where people have died and deaths have exceeded a lot. So as we can, as I said, the Russia has also affected us. The cholera deaths in Russian Empire during a similar time period exceeded 2 million. And the cholera spread from India and later to many parts of the world like America, Africa, Russia, China, and Indonesia, resulted in many deaths. So, who is the first one to find this? Jon Snow. To say he's the first one to find that when it spread to the England, he's the first one to find that there is a problem in the drinking water, thus affecting the people who are drinking it. So we can say that this is how we found it. So considering the economic situations and the time where India is there, and the Britishers at that time have colonized the India. By the time Britishers have colonized the India, thus it also spread to the other parts of the world widely. Like it also spread to the British like that, and even America, as the exports have started from India. The people, there are some commercial crops which are being produced in India, like indigo or other crops which are exported, and cotton which are exported to other parts of the world. And that is how maybe this cholera also have spread through exports which are happening through India. And people are mostly affected by it. So as we can see, these are the black marks are the ones where people are affected by the cholera. Next, Spanish flu. Spanish flu, to say after the Black Death, Spanish flu is the major pandemic which affected the people all over the world and all throughout the world. So how did this flu got the name of Spanish flu? It occurred during the First World War and the Second World War time after the First World War, where the the soldiers have carried this flu, and it is said to have that the people in Spain have been covering some news about the flu, and that is how they got to know about the flu, firstly. And secondly, Spain is the most affected country while getting this due to this flu. So, what happened and how many people have died? Considering the countries which have participated in the World War, India is also one of the major countries which have participated in the World War. So, thus, 40 million Indian people have died due to the Spanish flu. So this flu, so infected the deadliest in history, infected an estimated 500 million people worldwide, about one third of the planet's population, and killed about 20 to 50 million victims. So the 20 million victims are from other parts of the world, like America, Russia, and German, and Europe. In 1918, the flu was observed in Europe, the United States, and the parts of Asia before swiftly spreading around the world. There are no vaccines, so people are ordered to wear masks and distance to be followed. So this is when the social distancing and the masks, the people are not yet developed so scientifically, but they are having the technology is well enough, so they can able to detect how the flu is spreading. Thus instructing us how to follow this, how to maintain social distance or wear mask in order to in order to stop the spreading of virus. So how did it affect the people? All over the world, Spanish flu affected every person. It is the time where, in 1918, it is the time where the scientists, doctors, and nurses, they are in the huge numbers, but due to this, they don't know how to stop it, or that it is being tracked by, it is being spread by the contact of the other human. Thus, many nurses and doctors have died as a result. Not only this, scientists have also died in while finding the cure for this Spanish flu. And what happened to the world economy at that time? The world economy, it fell. In order to stay, the businesses with the young immediately after the war, the farmers they need food to produce. Many of the German and Russian soldiers have sent their troops, all of their troops into the war, thus having no farmers to produce, and only some of the women have stayed in the town, in the places to farm. Thus, there is a food scarcity during that time, and also many people lost their loved ones, and everything is out of order. It is a total chaos. So farmers aren't enough to produce. There aren't enough number of farmers to produce the crops and harvest them. And daily workers, like in order to say, there are many daily workers like sweepers or garbage collectors or sewage or cleaners or something like that. They are not available. They are not available. And the business corporations have also started during that period of time, and like printing presses or something like that. Thus, the business operations have lost their employees, and there is not much to export from one country to another. Thus, exports and imports have also been stopped. That is how the people are affected by the Spanish flu. As you can see, this is the most basic picture which we can get about the Spanish flu, where people, the hundreds of people are lying across this whole big hall. This is not actually hall; it might be a factory too, and they are being affected. Doctors are treating them. Asian and Hong Kong flu. Considering the number of flus, which we can say the rats, birds, and pigs are the only carriers of this of the disease, which we can see. So this is the second flu which happened right after the Spanish flu, which occurred in 1956 to 1958. So which lasted till 3 years. So H2N2, it is a type of influenza which originated in China. As you can see, China is actually the most is a place where many of the flus have originated, considering the Black Death, which is occurred by the rodents, and even the plague which happened, and the Justinian plague, it also has spread through China by the trade, by the export that happened from the China. So this lasted for 3 years, and Asian flu traveled from Chinese to Singapore, Hong Kong, and then United States. India is actually not affected mostly by the Asian plague to say, but but India is affected by Hong Kong flu, which happened later in the year in 1968. Right, just after 10 years of Asian flu, Spanish flu have occurred, which caused a pandemic all over the world, like Europe, India, Philippines, United States, Vietnam, Singapore, like all over the country, all over the world. The Hong Kong flu has spread very widely, and it is said to have been the mother, it is originated from H2N2 flu. So how people are affected during this time. Approximately a million of people have died, and almost in every part of the region, economically, people are not stable due to the treatments, which are maybe the hospital fees may be high, and they could not receive a proper treatment, and people are dying as a result. And the poverty will be the cause of the attacking of this flu, etc. So the Spanish flu, which occurred in 1918, which we have read, is from bird to human transmission, which is H1N1. So this is for easy understanding. And for 1957, Asian flu has started, which is H2N2, which is from Spanish flu and other human virus, which resulted in Asian flu. And H3N2 is from the Asian virus and other human virus, which resulted in Hong Kong. So this is the basic chart which we can see. And thus, there are three more things which we are going to study. This is the SARS. SARS also is most. This occurred in the starting of this 2002 and 2003, where it spread over to 24 countries in Asia, Europe, North America, and South America. So, what have actually happened during this time? So, it is said that the China is the originator of this SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. That is, it affects our lungs. Thus, people who and how did it spread? It is said to spread by the chickens, that is the birds. It is a type of bird, right? So the chickens, it is spread through the chickens, etc. Thus resulting in the loss of people. So sorry, and this is spread through chickens. So what happened during that time? Like how did the economy of the China or the people in China have survived this or coped up with this? So the government didn't actually want the people at the beginning when the SARS have started. They started ignoring. But when, for example, the authorities or the media caused number of experts to become dissatisfied. For example, there is a man from the military doctor. He is working in a military hospital in China. He wrote to the government of China regarding how the people are affected by it. But he was soon being but the government didn't accept his comment on the SARS that people are spreading it. Uh, but but the people are very scared due to this SARS, and they don't know how to react to this. How did it spread? It is through mouth to mouth, or else, and people got to know it through media, newspapers, etc. And afterwards, the government later want the citizens to follow the proper norms, and 80% of the population is later satisfied by what the government did. But regardless of it, the economic loss was huge, and the exports have stopped from China, and people have lost their loved ones. That is the common impact of humans when these pandemics have occurred. And what happened? The flu. Due to this flu, birds, the chickens, poultry farms are being careless. Like every part of the poultry trading center are closed. There is no imports or exports of poultry trade, and the farmers have suffered great economic losses during that time. So farmers are the ones which are being affected when this pandemic, the SARS, have appeared in China. And the tourism also have started developing in the 1900s, but later on, due to the SARS, tourism has stopped. The tourism exports and imports from China have actually halted. So we can see this is the basic part where the SARS are how the SARS are being detected through fever, cough, fatigue, dyspnea. So these are different symptoms which the people have got. HIV or AIDS pandemic. This is the pandemic which they have, the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1976.
Sushmita, you're not audible. Sushmita, is there a problem? Some technical problem or what?
So before I leave, I just want to pray for
Yeah, please, ma'am.
Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pasyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukhamapniyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sri Guru Namaha. Because after this corona, everyone should get the good health and they all should be happy. That's
Yes,
my
ma'am.
wish.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wishes and your prayer. I'm sure, by God's grace, we'll all be all right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Sushmita, what's happening? I think with that, we will close our session for today. I'm unable to contact Sushmita. Now I request Anupriya from 3rd BA Literature to please propose a formal vote of thanks. And before she gives that, I have some instructions for you. Tomorrow we have the final session, again from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And Professor Janaki Nair will be addressing. And her topic is going to be Feminist Historiography. So I request all of you to join us back. I think we can use the same link that I have given you today. If there's any problem, I will let you know. But otherwise, I'll see all of you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Right? And now I request Anupriya to please propose the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. I deem it a privilege to thank our dear principal, Dr. Sister Jacintha Quadras, for giving us an opportunity to learn about the facts and history through the history webinar. Thank you, sister. I thank Dr.G.Beulah, Head Department of History, for successfully organizing and conducting this afternoon's technical session. I'm extremely thankful to Professor I. Lakshmi for her well-thought-out talk on women agencies. Her talk was very thought-provoking. Thank you, madam. I thank Sushmita from 3rd BA for an excellent paper on impact on pandemic situation. I thank Mahima and Evie for rendering the prayer song. I thank Mr. Prasad, the system admin, for his constant support. I thank all the webinar participants. I'm sure we all are satisfied from today's session. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Anupriya. So I think with that, we come to the conclusion of today's session. Tomorrow, I request all of you to join us back. And I think we'll also be sending you the feedback forms. And once you fill it, you will also be given certificates shortly. So if you have any queries, if you have any doubts, you can always contact me. That'll be all for today. Good evening, one and all.